All right, the wait is over, ladies and gentlemen. It is finally here. The 2024 NFL season is upon us. I picked all 272 regular season games. It gave me some records, it gave me some playoff teams. I'm going through division by division, team by team, breaking things down for what you can expect for the upcoming NFL season. And obviously, I'm 100% right. All of these predictions completely correct. There will be no misses on this channel whatsoever. We did the AFC West yesterday. Today, we're doing the NFC East, an intriguing division. A couple of massive letdowns from two of these teams in the playoffs to start it off. A young rookie quarterback, and maybe what I think could possibly be the worst team in the NFL. But let's just hop right into it. Your New York Football Giants. Okay, the Giants, it was a roller coaster of a season last year, 6-11, coming off of a playoff win and a wild card berth the season before. Brian Daboll kind of struggled last year, didn't have a quarterback. Daniel Jones goes down. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. We're getting Tommy Cutlets out there. It was Cutlet mania for them, Tommy DeVito. It all blew up. The Giants were terrible, but Daboll coming back strong, slimmed down, good for him, looking very sexy. They add a couple of guys. They bring in Brian Burns off the edge. You bring in running back Devin Singletary, but you can't replace what you lost. Saquon Barkley gone to the division rival. You also lose Tyrod Taylor, who's probably the best backup in the NFL. You lose safety Xavier McKinney, and it's just kind of a lot of bad. Now, you did draft an absolute stud. You stayed pat in the draft. You don't go quarterback. You take wide receiver Malik Neighbors out of LSU, and he's been an absolute monster out there. But the biggest problem is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is still the quarterback of this football team. He's going to start, and good God, is he horrible. He is just awful. There is no if, ands, or buts about it. I like Brian Daboll as a coach. I think he's done a good job. But when you don't have any real serious threat at running back, you have Daniel Jones, who is incompetent and completely inept, the most overpaid quarterback in the NFL as your starting quarterback, you're going to struggle to get Malik Neighbors the ball. Look, the offensive line's better than what it's been. The defense should be a little bit better. They've been kind of all over the place. They get rid of Wink Martindale. It was just kind of a toxic situation between him and Daboll. So I expect the defense to be a little bit better, but man, I cannot buy in. I cannot believe in Daniel Jones going to do anything successful whatsoever. I think it's a terrible year. You burn this year. You get rid of Daniel Jones. Giants ownership has been the laughingstock and an embarrassment in the NFL with how they've gotten rid of all their coaches. I think it's going to be another bad year, but I'd like to see Daboll get one more shot with an actual competent guy at quarterback. I have the Giants going 4-13, being a horrible team, but that'll get them one of the top picks to draft a guy to pair with Malik Neighbors, who I think will be the lone bright spot for this team this season. Okay, the Washington Commanders now, 4-13 last year. You get rid of Rowboat Ron Rivera. In comes Dan Quinn, who's been dominating the league with his stout defenses in Dallas the last few seasons. I think this is a huge energy boost to this team. Not only Dan Quinn, but you also got Cliff Kingsbury to come in and run the offense. And Dan's going to let Cliff run the offense. Cliff has had some up and down tenures in his college and NFL experience, but I think Cliff is a solid play caller. I think he knows what he's doing. He definitely knows how to establish a run game and run the football. That's a big plus. You know, they did add a couple of pieces too. You upgraded the offensive line with Nick Algoretti. It was one of the worst offensive lines in football. Sam Howell threw for almost 400,000 yards last year under the worst offensive line in football. So there is some potential there. You also had running back Austin Eckler. I don't think he's completely washed yet. You still have Brian Robinson Jr. back there. I think he's due for a breakout season for them. You don't really have the weapons you love. You have scary Terry McLaurin. You don't have Jahan Dotson. You trade him to the Eagles. That's kind of a weird situation. But the big add, you drafted quarterback Jaden Daniels, number 2 overall. He's your starting guy, and he is just a freak explosive athlete. He's got a monster arm. We could see something like throw for 3,000 yards, rush for 1,000 yards out of Jaden Daniel. They also drafted Zerhan Newton out of Illinois, one of my favorite defensive linemen, to reload up on that D-line that they kind of cleared house on. They've always been good on the defensive front, but they kind of ship guys out to acquire assets. I like what they did building that back up. I think this is going to be a little bit of a surprise team. I think the Commanders are going to be really solid offensively. I think they're going to be okay defensively. Dan Quinn's going to get his guys in the right spot. I know it didn't end well for him in Dallas, but he knows how to call a defense. He knows how to coach guys up. I think this should be an exciting team. Kind of how I predicted the Texans last season to maybe you're going to start off slow, then Jaden Daniels is going to pick things up, and they're going to finish much stronger. I don't think they're going to be as good as how the Texans were. They kind of caught everybody off guard with how they finished. I like the Commanders as a whole. I am concerned about Jaden Daniels getting injured. He runs with reckless abandon, and I mean reckless abandon for a guy who is built like a twig. He's not a big guy. He's a skinny guy. It's a problem. He's got to learn to get down, get out of bounds, because this is a grown-ass man's league, and you're going to get killed out there, Jaden. So I do think that is a concern, but if he can stay healthy, I think everything's going to be running on all cylinders, kind of cohesive unit, start off slow, finish strong. I have the Commanders at a shocking, maybe to some of you, 7-10. I have them having a good season, in the right direction, and potentially could be your sleeper breakout playoff team next year. I like them a lot as a whole. 7-10 for the Commanders. I'm a big buyer in this Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury marriage. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Go draft yourself another wide receiver. Maybe trade for a guy at the deadline. Maybe a guy like, I don't know, Devontae Adams, potentially. But I think they're going to be really solid. But before we get into the second half of this video, if you haven't already, drop a quick like, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends. Helps us out in the algorithm, really helps me a lot. And if you want to go see some of these teams in person, go to one of these games, go do some in-person scouting so you can comment how wrong I was about one of these teams. Check out SeatGeek. Use code afterthereview for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. All the great games, prove me wrong, or maybe prove me right. Be like, hey, it's Jaden Daniels' cat, Washington. We like them a lot. But let's hop into the second half with your two potential division champs. Okay, the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of a Super Bowl loss 2 years ago, they started out blistering hot in 2023 and then absolutely fell apart. The complete collapse, finished 11-6, getting embarrassed in the wild card round by Tampa Bay, and it was just like, please end this season. There's been a lot of talk about all sorts of stuff. They replaced the coordinators. They're trying to get things figured out. I mean, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts apparently having some headbutting issues as far as communication styles, but you paid Jalen Hurts. You're going to have to ride with Jalen Hurts. And the weapons and all-around talent on this team are there. Now, they did have some big losses. You lose Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce to retirement. I don't think we can overstate how important Jason Kelce was in the center of that offensive line. Don't expect to see much of the tush push this year. He's the anchor out there. He's making calls. You also traded away pass rusher Hassan Reddick. DeAndre Swift, who was your leading running back last year, he's also gone, but Philly's also run a multi-back system. But there is some buts. They bring in the big dogs. They sign Saquon Barkley away from the Giants. This is a massive upgrade for them. They also really adjusted the defense. The defense was horrible. One of the worst secondary probably in the NFL last year. You add a pair of linebackers in Devin White and Zach Bond. You bring in defensive back C.J. Gardner-Johnson to help improve that unit. But the draft, they go Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, who's the number one corner on my board. I love that pick. And then you drafted White Lightning himself, Cooper DeJean. Now, DeJean's been banged up most of the preseason, but they really attack this position of need. You bring in a heavy hitter on offense with Saquon Barkley. You don't run the tush push as much anymore because clearly all that grinding, gritty running styles did not have a positive effect on Jalen Hurts. I think he was hurt last year. He was dealing with some injuries. But again, you have A.J. Brown, who's a top-tier wide receiver. Devontae Smith, who I absolutely love. Maybe one of my favorite receivers in the NFL. They just traded for Jahan Dotson. I think he's a good number 3. Dallas Goedert, a solid tight end. All the pieces are in place for this team to have a bounce-back season. Really strong year. I think the Eagles come back with a vengeance, pick up some dubs, and I think they are, again, a real threat in the NFC. Now, maybe Kelce was just that important that everything breaks down and we can't get it done for them, but I'm a believer in the Eagles. I'm a believer in this offense and Jalen Hurts. The defense should be better on the back end. They can't be much worse out there. They had Matt Patricia calling the defense at a point. God. So we got to be better there. I got the Eagles, 13-4, a dominating performance from the Eagles this season. 13-4, easily good enough to win that division, I think. I got them winning the division at 13-4. Back in the playoffs, potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC once again. But let's get to it. Everybody's been waiting for it. How about them Cowboys? Okay, what can we say about the Dallas Cowboys? 12-5 last year. Looked like last year was the year. They fooled everybody. They fooled me. I'm sure some people will claim they weren't fooled. Everybody was fooled. Everybody thought this might actually be the year. Home playoff games till the NFC Championship game. They dominated the regular season. Bounced, one and done, upset by Green Bay, embarrassed by Green Bay at home in the first round. And it kind of took all the wind out of this team's sails. They've had it feels like a lame duck year. Mike McCarthy stays on as the head coach. They lose defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. They bring in my old guy, Mike Zimmer, to run the defense. But man, they're just in a bad situation. They lose some depth all across the board. They lose some defensive line depth. They lose offensive line depth. They lose running back. Their only running back, Tony Pollard, even though he didn't have a great season, he's gone. You brought back Zeke. Hey, man, go Zeke. You got Zeke. You got Rico Dowdle. You just didn't really add to the defense whatsoever. Deron Bland now out for a couple of months potentially with an injury. You are getting Trayvon Diggs back, so that helps the secondary. You lose one guy, you get another guy back. That doesn't hurt, but this secondary is a real concern for me. And the offensive line isn't going to be nearly as good. They drafted a young offensive lineman, Tyler Guyton. I don't think he's going to be an impactful guy to start the season. So it's all on Dak. CeeDee Lamb's back. You re-signed CeeDee Lamb. He was holding out. He got his contract done, so we're not worried about that anymore at the time of recording. But it's on Dak, it's on this offense, and it just feels like a lame duck year. Dak's going to enter free agency. He's got a no-tag clause. He's going to get $60 million. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to pay him $60 million and deal with Micah Parsons. I would like the Cowboys to hit the reset button, but it's really hard to convince an owner who's 80-plus years old to hit the reset button because he wants another one before he goes out, and I don't think Jerry's willing to spend the time to do that. I would just sell out. It's not a great quarterback draft. I do think the Cowboys are going to manage to be good, but this is a lame duck year. Mike McCarthy, 1,000% getting fired. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, Cowboy fans, I got him going 8-9, not making the playoffs, kind of a disaster all-around season. You aren't going to be bad enough to get an elite pick and potentially get a franchise quarterback, even though it's a terrible quarterback draft, and you're not going to make the playoffs. It's kind of no man's, dead man's land, and I feel bad for my Cowboy friends. I think they're in for a disappointing and long season, and I think they're all just kind of praying for Jerry Jones to get out of the picture one way or another. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you in on the Eagles? Do you believe in the Eagles? Are the Giants going to be the worst team in football? What about my Commanders pick? Am I too high on the Commanders? I like them as a little bit of a sleeper. And tell me, Cowboy fans, I'm wrong about you boys. But let me know if you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got new sports content every single day. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool perks, exclusive access to videos, help support me, allows me to keep making this great stuff for you guys every single day. Again, like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.